Thank you, everybody. Can you hear me in the back? All right, fantastic. I do have one of the best jobs in the industry, and as an armor technical specialist, I get to work with folks and develop body armor and test it and see how we address the threats that are faced by law enforcement and the military. The National Institute of Justice, which is a governing body which dictates what body armor will be available and what rigorous testing will be done to body armor before it's available to law enforcement, recently raised the standards for us. And there were a lot of questions within our company, within our industry, on how we truly address those. And our TexTech. They came up with a core matrix technology that they felt was an incredible solution for the perils that are addressed and the testing rigorous protocols that are imposed upon us within the industry. And on June 17th of this year, your material in the field was put to that test. Idaho Falls, really tough incident went on, and only because of the dedication of the personnel here, the brilliance, the willingness to put the time in and the effort and take the chance to bring new fiber technology to our industry, you saved a life, you brought an officer home, you brought a husband home, you brought a father home. That incredible individual is Malin Reynolds. Malin, come on up. I'm going to turn this over briefly to Malin and let him tell you in his own words what went on and what happened, but I'm going to warn him, if you hold back, I'm going to come back up here and fill in the blanks, okay?
I appreciate the invitation out here, and it's my wife and I's first trip to Maine, and it's driving her crazy that that's on. I'll turn it back on in a minute, that's important. She's like, get my face off the TV. I got to live with her, so. The first thing that I want you to know is that I don't go to work one day without you guys. You know, every time I put the uniform and the badge on, the vest goes on first. You know, I'm out here without my vest. We only came out with carry-ons. And just putting the vest on today, it's like I put everything on without socks or underwear. You know, you just don't feel right without the protection of that. I'm going to just give you a little bit of history of me. I grew up in Firth, Idaho. It's a farming community. We grow more potatoes than anybody else in the world. I grew up on a farm. I've been a police officer for 15 years for the City of Idaho Falls Police Department. Some of the things that I do, I'm a field training officer, so I get a lot of the rookies. I just barely got done. Thursday was my last day with a brand new rookie. And to see brand new rookies coming into the field, it is becoming more of a dangerous field in law enforcement. I couldn't imagine seeing people coming into this profession without wearing the safety products that you guys have provided and designed. I'm going to just go into a little bit of the dynamics of what happened the night that I got shot. In the 15 years that I've worked, to my wife's dismay, you don't become a police officer to work the day shift. The excitement is at the swing shift, and our swing shift was at 4 in the afternoon till 2 in the morning. You know, that's where cops go to become cops. And I had worked 15 years of those, and my wife had finally said, enough of the crap. Time to help me with your little turds that are at home with me. I got 4 kids, and 2 of them didn't fall too far from the tree that are kind of like their dad. So she says, I need a little bit of help at home. And the night of my incident would have been the last swing shift that I would have worked for the next 8 months. And what happened is we had 3 agencies involved with this incident. The Idaho State Police had stopped an individual on just a routine traffic stop. A lot of these things is where these incidents happen. They're routine, but what the outcome is anything but routine. The individual that they had stopped had a warrant, and it was just for failure to pay fines. We don't have a sharing radio, so we didn't hear a whole lot of the things that he was a violent offender, that they should have used a little more caution with the individual. and I'm not faulting them. But when they went up to take custody of this individual, he fled and fled in the vehicle. And it was in our city limits where this happened. The state police can work anywhere in our city limits as well. Well, it was my last swing shift, and it was probably 1:45. I'm off in 15 minutes. I'm at the furthest point of the city limits waiting to go home. I'm sitting in a park, counting the minutes down. And I hear this call go out, and it's not really a pursuit. We have a pretty stringent pursuit policy. But everybody wants to get in on something like that. So everybody's ears perk up. And he heads towards his house, and he's passing officers at 75 miles an hour in a 35-mile-an-hour zone. In there, some other issues with felony eluding and stuff like that. But he ended up at his house, went home. And one of the officers was right on his heels, chased him into the house. The guy got the door shut before he got there. And so he barricaded into his house. And at that point, once he becomes barricaded, there's some other specialized training that I do through Safari Land. But I'm the gas guy. I show up and fill your house full of gas until you come out or other things happen. And so at that point, I've been on the SWAT team for 10 years, and I'm a team leader. I responded to the location to help where I could for the SWAT end of it. When I got there, I was the most senior officer on the scene. And so everybody turns and looks at me. And I'm like, well, what are you looking at me for? So I said, well, where did you see this individual last? And the officer that had chased him to the front door took me to the front door. And this individual happened to be the three little windows that are in the door. This individual that we had chased there was actually talking to us through the front door. And he said, I want to talk to my probation officer. And I said, well, can you talk to me in the meantime? Our policy dictates that if we can see a person and we don't believe that there's anything violent going to happen, we get to kick the door in on top of them and do the pig pile like all police love to do. And, high five and off down the road, we're home by 2 again. So this was no different. I got on the radio. I told the guy that was with me, I says, get on the radio and clear it through the lieutenant that we kick his door and we grab this guy. And everybody wants to get in on that. Didn't think another second that it would turn out any different. So I turned around, and what's interesting is all three agencies were here at that location. There was probably 15 cops. I was one of the last guys to get there. So I made a hasty stack, which is a bunch of officers that are ready to go in and do the pig pile on the bad guy. And I says, well, let's kick the door. We've got permission. Let's go get this guy. And he was holding the door shut with his body, and he was a bigger man. But on the first kick of the door, it cracked the door, but we could tell that he was leaning on it. So I kicked it a second time, and it broke, took the integrity of the locks away. So the third time, I just backed up and hit it with my shoulder. When I hit it with my shoulder, it knocked the door off the hinges and off to the side. But the guy was pushing on it so hard, it knocked him on his butt. But when I went through the door of the house, I tripped over the entryway. And the guy behind me, 6'5" and 320 pounds, he flipped over the top of me and landed on a pile of elk antlers. So it was kind of a mess getting in, but the guy, he fell back on his butt and stood up with both of his hands up. So at this point, we're still thinking it's just going to be a pig pile once we all get up and get a hold of him. But we're all stuck in the doorway of the house as we've tripped over the threshold. I was the first one to get up and get moving again, and the bad guy left the room like this with his hands up, telling me no, no, no. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to still be home by 2. Not even another time did I think that it was going to be any different. He left the room and went into a kitchen, and barely went into the kitchen, I instantly went after him. And the only thing that I had in my hand at the time was a flashlight, because we'd been able to keep visual of him the whole time, and there weren't any weapons. Unbeknownst to me, he had picked up a pistol off the counter just as he had stepped inside in the kitchen. I don't think that he expected me to come in as hard and fast as I did into the kitchen. And when I came into the kitchen, he was holding something here, and I think he was press checking the gun to see if there was a round in the cylinder of the gun. But as I came in, my intentions were to start the pig pile, to tackle him. As I went in to tackle him, it was it scared him when I came in. He actually jumped, and when he jumped, he just stuck that gun out, but he stuck it in my chest at point blank, and I initially never did see the gun. The first thing that I felt the muzzle blast up my neck, and I was like, "This is a bad day." Things are going really bad here. And at that point, I couldn't have stopped tackling him if I had wanted to. So my initial thoughts were, I've got to get him wrapped up and keep the gun between him and me so he can't shoot me again. I'm waiting for the next succession of shots to ring out. And I've got to get in the game. I've got to start returning fire is my thoughts, or else I'm gonna die here. So I wrap him up and tackle him to the floor. And when I rolled off, I drew my gun, and two other deputies that passed my big buddy that crashed and broke his leg. The two other deputies from the same jurisdiction came in, and three of us returned fire on the bad guy. He also at the same time came up and put a self-inflicted gunshot wound to his head. So 8 shots within about 2.5 seconds. And so at that point, me and the guy that had broke his leg, they loaded us into an ambulance. Well, I forget a part. I knew I'd been shot, but I didn't know how bad. There were 8 shots in 2.5 seconds, and so my thought is I've been shot numerous times and I don't know where. And so one of the other deputies cut my shirt off. We found the slug in my vest. It was hot, still hot. And if you've ever shot guns and caught brass, it was that hot. It was hot to the touch. And they checked me several times. That was the only bullet that had struck me. So I said, "Get me out of this crap hole. Get me out of this house." So they stood me up. They got us up to the hospital and just did x-rays. And people were amazed that nothing had happened. That I was cracking jokes, as law enforcement do, to relieve some of the stress of the matter, or of the incident. But a point impact shot, and I walked away. 3 hours later, I walked out of the hospital, basically unscathed. I just wanted to share a few photos with you. If I can get them up here. That's a picture of my vest right there. I talk about the 3 agencies that were there. There were city, state, and county. But you guys need to realize that you were there as well. If I hadn't have been wearing this vest, you guys, I wouldn't have come home. I got to share one more picture and hang tight. This is what you do, guys. That's who I went home to that night. And if it wasn't for the technology and the vest that you assist in making, I wouldn't have gone home to them. I ask each of my children to write you a letter. And I've just left them the way they wrote them, as that's how I want you to hear them. And this is from my 9-year-old Sage. She's one that's more of a tender-hearted one like her mom. And she says, thank you for making a vest that saved my dad. You saved a very lucky man. I'm going to add to that, a lot of people have said you were lucky. I don't believe in luck. I don't believe in that form of luck. I think that there was a divine intervention there, and that I have a Heavenly Father that watches out for us all. And I've mentioned that with a few of you as I've walked through your plant. I think God loves police. I'm going to continue with her letter. It says, I just really wanted to thank you for that. I hope you keep making vests for more police and save more lives. Once again, thank you for making those vests. Here's my 11-year-old that's a knothead like me. I'd like to thank you for starting a vest company. If you guys had not have made police vests and other stuff, I might not have had a dad anymore. He says, I prefer second chance to all police. It really means a lot to me and others that you guys make vests, and that can hold a bullet. If you guys hadn't have made vests, a good cop, a good man, a good husband, a good father may have died. I hope Second Chance stays building vests for a long time. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, everyone. Thank you. Second Chance saves lives. My 16-year-old came to the hospital that night with my wife, and that was a lot to dump on her. But I think she was old enough. My wife says, you want her coming? And I said, oh, she's probably old enough to take what I was there, and it was a serious situation. But here's her letter. She said, saying thank you can't and won't ever be enough to express how truly grateful I am for what you have done, not only my dad, but me and my family as well. Without the protection your company has provided for officers and forces throughout, there would be so much more for me to worry about and so much less for me to be thankful for. The decision to take use of such a vest should never be a question for anyone in my dad's position. It's because of you guys that I'm still able to have my daddy I have today. I don't know what I would do if the outcome would have been any different. Not having a dad to support me, not having there to cheer me on at all my performances, I couldn't even imagine it. Because of you, my whole life is completely different in the best way possible. Thank you for everything you have done, even though it may seem little, like almost nothing to you. Thank you, Kylie Reynolds. In the words of my 6-year-old, I got a lot of time off this summer. His comment was, I hope Daddy gets shot every summer. So, out of the mouth of babes. We got a lot of fun fishing and camping and swimming and stuff like that. But from the bottom of my heart, you guys, I want you to know what it meant to go home to my family. It's not just my life, guys. Everybody in law enforcement wear these vests. You know, it's throughout the world that these vests protect lives and affect everyday guys just like me. You know, I'm run-of-the-mill, guys. But it truly makes a difference, and I appreciate you and love you all, your family. And thank you for what you do.
Every single yard of what you produce here that we develop into vests for law enforcement might be the next one that's called upon, be challenged during the next critical incident. That's why when the quality control folks and everybody else step up and really push you so hard, you never know which yard it's going to be that's called upon. And every single time it gets driven out there and we build it, and it rolls off the end of our line and we deliver it, we have the faith that that body armor is going to do its job and continue to do its job. These saves belong to you folks, everybody in this room. There's something that you delivered. And like I said earlier, you brought an officer home. That's an entire law enforcement community that doesn't have another name on the memorial wall down in Judiciary Square in Washington, D.C., but instead has their name on a saves board. Has that count started at number 1 on your wall here at TexTech. That's phenomenal. You've got a law enforcement community that didn't lose another officer. You've got a community in Idaho Falls that didn't have to bury a police officer, that didn't have to suffer through that. But you've got a family that you brought that officer home to. His wife Lisa, his 4 children, all his extended family. And he's got a huge extended family. It's absolutely incredible. What your armor did, in a ballistic engagement, you hope that it hits center mass, you hope that it hits straight on, because it gives us the best chance to disperse that energy across. You've delivered a core matrix technology that gives us that 360 degrees to drive that energy across, instead of the 4 originals that we all started with, which is great. That's a huge step up. His shot wasn't straight on. It was a severe angle. The second thing you don't want in law enforcement is way out on the edge of body armor. The NIJ doesn't even consider that a fair hit, where his was engaged. because it was so close to the edge. Armor can roll out of the way. There's no room across that whole side or even up and down on that edge for that energy to go anywhere but through. So there's two of the worst things that can happen. The other item you never want to hear about is a contact shot. Gas comes out of the end of that barrel incredibly hard, incredibly fast, and it separates fibers and allows a channel for penetration. His was a contact, severe angled, edge shot. Because of your technology, he's here with us today. We have a couple little things here from the Safariland Saves Club. Everybody gets a number. You are save number 1,779. Next time he goes to training, he is going to be the best dressed there in Idaho Falls. We've got a plaque that we award to all saves. It reads from the Safariland Saves Club, presented to Officer Malin Reynolds, the Idaho Falls Police Department. In recognition of your valor and dedication to duty, the Safariland Saves Club, save number 1,779. Because he's a hard-charging shooter, there's a shooter's bag that he can put everything in to take home. We thought he might be running a little low there. But most importantly, there's a challenge coin that we had drawn up. On this challenge coin, it says, Safariland, together we save lives. That together has never meant more than today, because this is the first time that we've gone beyond our internal saves program to one of our supply partners to do an actual presentation and recognize a save right here at TexTech. This is the first. And it says, again, Safariland, together we save lives. It's got our traditional Impala, and it's got 2 spent shell casings, indicative of what takes place when that armor reaches a challenge. It's got the American flag in the background. On the back is the Purple Heart Medal, which police officers qualify for after a ballistic engagement. Again, it's got the American flag in the background and the crossed swords. It's got back-to-back male and female police officers. At the bottom, a tactical team holding the ground. I present this today, Officer Malin Reynolds, Idaho Falls. He's earned it, and he's here because of you. Again,